Good day and welcome back to my channel. So, winding done. I've now got the assembly to where I can start the painting and sort of moving together, putting the whole thing together. So we've managed to get all of the pieces put together. I did run into a couple of glitches, most of them on the bottom. These weren't too terrible. These are things you can deal with. I had some challenges with these fitting and sort of the way all this went together. There was a lot of clamping and, like putting oddball weight. I'll put a picture up here with how I kind of had to make that work. So right there. Yeah. I don't have clamps that can, like reach around this without just crushing it because of the, I just don't have them. Most of the clamps that I have are like this. So, those would just crush this. So I had to sort of be creative. With that said, a couple things. Seams here, challenging. Seams here, challenging. I'm going to go back and take another look at how this looks in real life, just to see how much more I need to clean that up. But we've gotten sort of the base coat down. I've hit it with primer, and I've also given it a shot of Future, Clear, Pledge, whatever it's called these days. I'm going to use the word Future from now on. I've never used Pledge before. It was an interesting experience. My airbrush does not handle it at all. Either it's my crappy airbrush or it's me, probably me. Combination of me and an airbrush that's, old. But what I ended up doing was brushing it, and it works, right? I mean, just hairy brushing it, that's a cool thing about Future. It just kind of goes on. Needless to say, doing all of this with a hairy brush. And the hairy brush I used was one of these. I have a whole bunch of these things. These are my I got these for a tenth of a shekel. I got a whole bunch of these things, but I used this and just went like that. It took a while, but it worked. So, hey, putting that on the tail, I ended up having to do two coats on this just because of the way it dried, but it does give me what I need. Now, I'm now to the point where I'm sort of started doing details. Now, what I want to do is build up the landing gear well a little bit more. There is detail in there, but it's meh. It's gonna still be meh when I'm done, but I'd like it to be a little more interesting meh. For no other reason other than to practice the technique, right? Just kind of do the thing. I've started putting some extra wires and cabling in there, and you can see a couple of them there. I've started detailing up the landing gear. So these pieces here are just little discs of green stuff and, wires and so forth, that just to add a little more detail interest to it. And then started giving it a bit of a wash, which I'll then dry brush down and then get it prepped in. I did decide that I am not going to go with trying to recast the wheels. I'll just go ahead and use the chocks. Mostly because I'm not worried about recasting. That's not anything that's difficult for me. I know how to recast, so there really isn't a learning thing to do there. It's just a matter of I don't have the right kind of mold material for rubber. I did try them. I think I mentioned this before. I did try them, and then I forgot the fact that it can't have the sulfur that's in the rubber, or I think it's sulfur or whatever the chemical is. Essentially, the mold starve stuff that I use for everything else. It will not cure next to these, no matter how much you seal them. It won't cure next to the rubber. So that was a failure. Decision point then that, let's not even bother, right? This kit comes with chocks to put around the wheels, which I can then do, which will sort of help. And then there's a lot of pictures of the wheel wells and a lot of pictures of landed Tomcats that they're not really flat. So there's many of the pictures I'm seeing, the apparently the tire pressure, the tires don't deform much. So I will also put a picture up here with, sort of one of the many that I'm working off, but like right here. Right? So I'm kind of running off that. And I'm going to have this displayed not on a mirror. It's not going to be, where I can see all the micro detail up inside here. However, I want to play with it. I want to sort of try. I'd like to give an attempt at what it would take to detail that a little bit much. The frustration level of putting this together is high enough. I'm not rushing to get this done, so I'm still going to continue to practice some of the things I'd like, but I've sort of adapted my expectations down a little bit. I'm still going to do my very best, and so we're going to see where I end up as I get through working this. So I've got quite a bit to do, even though I have this much done. Doing the wheel wells alone are going to take some time. I mentioned when I was putting things together about that hole there, right? When I was talking about when these wheel wells all go together, that I thought that it was either part of because of where the wing thing goes or whatever. Why is that hole here, right? Interesting side note, that hole's supposed to be there. I never would have thought of that. I will put a picture up here of what I found. Yeah. So I found that picture, which shows a whole lot of the cabling and wiring going into that hole. Obviously, it doesn't have that tab from the wing, but again, what's the level of detail I'm looking at here? So as you can see, I've started whitewashing this one. I still need to paint this one up. And there's a reason this one's painted and this one's not, and I'll get to that one in a minute. Because I'm working on the front, I have a layer of wash in here. Once that dries, I'm going back in and we'll dry brush up bring the white back up. And then I'll go in and add some more of the cabling and see what I need to do to increase those detail. But I'm kind of gonna rely on using the gear to sort of carry the look. I'm just gonna set this in because it doesn't really go in there. To sort of carry the look of this. And then the doors, right? The detail up the doors and all this will kind of should give it the level of interest and cleanliness and detail that I'm looking for the kit, or for the model, the result. So the reason this one isn't painted yet is that part right there. If you will, I'll spin this back around. If you recall me whining earlier, this wheel well is a little box that you glue onto this part, right? And then that piece glues to this part and the part up here, and that's what holds it in. It does not, it doesn't touch anything. It sort of hangs out into space over top of this until the bottom or the top part actually gets on. So you have this one is glued here, this one is glued here, this one is glued here. That one attaches to nothing except for this piece and this piece. So it's sort of held together just at the tips. Then when you put the top on, you've got a gap. I'm going to fill that gap with cabling, right? So I did that here along there. I'm putting cabling across the gap instead of just filling. I'm just going to go ahead and use some of the cabling because that'll add to that interest. So why am I whining about this one? When I put this on and I went to go paint this up, I realized that piece was gone. Either I hadn't glued it enough, or the glue, well, I hadn't glued enough, or I didn't let it set enough before I fiddled with it, so the bond was weak. Either way, I went to paint this and I saw this big giant hole here, and eventually the piece fell out the tail. But that was after all of this was together. So I mean, I was looking at this with that hole. What I ended up doing was taking a bit of styrene, detailing up the styrene with just some strips, and then I sort of glued on a little tab to this and a tab to the back, and ended up sticking in a tool down through. There is a hole here where I can reach down, and you can sort of see that if I bring a light over, maybe there, through that hole there, I could reach over, and you can see it better on the one over here because you can sort of see through, right? So I used one of my carving tools to sort of prop it down there, prop it in there, and then get that piece of styrene in. So that was my fix for my screw up, and what I ended up doing was gluing it to this piece, and this piece. I also found that this one was loose, so I had to re-glue that one. What is my point to this? My point is the design, the fiddly design of the parts can provide you some extra challenges later, like that, if you're not careful. And double check, so as you're starting to put things together, especially these flimsy pieces, these parts that are really sort of fiddly, make sure the bond is tight, that they are finished, that they're locked in, that things are solid. If that's the case, then you should be fine. If they're not, you're going to find yourself in the position where you struggle. The pieces or the articulation parts for the wing, they're another piece that it's fiddly, and they're loose inside. And I often, when these move, right, if I'm not careful about the way these move, they'll slip one of the gears, and then I have to reach in through the gap to reset them. Eventually, when I'm done, it'll be a non-issue. I thought long and hard. I thought about going ahead and gluing them in the swept back position, just because it's going to be displayed that way. But if I find at some point in the future I want to display it on in a way where it looks better with the wings open, I wanted the capability of doing that. So it's 6 1/2 dozen the other. It's whatever you want to do. I've read many people have said that they prefer not even fiddling with the articulation in there, and either just attach them or just glue the wings in place. So again, details, warning, whatever, these are the struggles I've come up with, and then the solutions that I've done to get over them. I am now at the point, like I said, where I'm starting to work on details. I'm starting to work on, got to paint up the wheel wells and start detailing those. I have these pieces off. I have the tail fins off, partly so that I can just work on the bottom and not have to worry about damaging the top, right? So if I had the tail fins on, then I'd have to worry about knocking them every time I flipped it over. These sort of stick out on the bottom. There's also a reason I haven't put the pylons and the missiles on either. It's just a thing. But because I'm also doing the Jolly Rogers, I can do the transfers. I can put the water slide transfers on these while they're like this, right? So I can get some of that fiddly work done here, so that I can then match them up. I can make a point to get them lined up instead of put them on while it's on this side and then sort of look around to make sure I've got them lined up. And eventually, you know how sometimes if you got them like at this angle and you flip them back and forth, if you weren't exactly in the right spot, you notice. This will help me actually align them, because I can, you know, just set them down, do the work at the transfers in the right spot, and then I can walk away from it. These here the same. I can do these, get the little, because they've got the little gold line around the bottom, and then the words in here, I can get those aligned and fiddled, where I can just fiddle with these. And then when I'm done, seal them, glue them on, and then do the weathering. This is covered by Frisket. I'm going ahead giving it a shot of base coat. So this sort of the top here is basically done before it's now ready for transfers. So from here, from the top part, it's basically ready for transfers. Once they're on, I'll get the little antenna pieces and the little detail parts that go on the front and sides, seal it one more time, and then we'll start weathering. The bottom, however, again, like I said, I have that off so I can work, but there's all the detail I need to do on the bottom yet. I still need to work on the wheel wells, and because of how much work that's going to be, it's better for me to have these all separated out. Yeah, so that's about as far as I've gotten. And I was at a point now where, you know, I'm just gonna kind of start nickel and diming my way through. So it's like I'm gonna be working on the front gear, the side gear, sort of all at once, because, you know, while that paint's dry, I can be washing this one, and then while that's drying, I can be painting this one, and while all that's curing, I can be working on a landing gear piece. You know, the piece that I put up there, my goal here is to get this in. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to chip this up a little bit, give it another dry brush, sort of finish this off, hit the silver with a bit of art coat to give it a more glossy look, again going for that picture I put up earlier. So that's the goal I'm going for. Again, the kit is a challenge, but it is workable, right? It is something that you can do something about. You know, the screw holes, they're gone. You know, a lot of the challenging pieces of this are things you can adapt to. It's just be ready to do so, right? Do not expect that you can just take it out of the box and just go. If you do that, if you do just go and don't plan to spend some extra effort, your result will show that that's what you did. But I think this is a good, what's the word I'm looking for? A good base to work on, right? I've had kits that are, you know, like 90% scratch build, because, you know, you got it and then, you know, it's just sort of an approximation of the thing. This isn't that bad, but this is, you know, it's workable, right? It is something you can work with. With that said, I think I've sort of covered everything I wanted to cover for this particular episode. Kind of waffled on enough. Yeah, feel free if you have any questions, concerns, worries, suggestions. I'm always open to suggestions. You know, very open, especially to folks who are experts in the field, because I'm not. I am neither an expert on F-14s, on Navy aircraft in general, or in modeling. I'm just sort of a hack who is having fun. And my whole goal here is to sort of present what a hack can do when, you know, we make an attempt to try to improve our skill set. You know, try something new, like working with Future or trying to detail a landing bay. This is, let's see what we get. Is it going to be 100% accurate? Nope. Is it going to look nice to my eye? I hope. But I have a goal in mind to try, and that's kind of where I'm going. With that said, I will say thank you very much for watching. Hope this is helpful, and until next time, happy modeling.